And I don't even remember what a regular Switch feels like these days. Like, because I have those hoary split pads on there all the time. Even when it's docked, it's just sitting there with that big honking, the wings on the side.
Hey, I loved that, playing 20 minutes till dawn. Because I did that a lot handheld, and I had the hoary
pretty
pads
much only
on there.
played it handheld. Yep.
That was awesome for that.
Yeah. Those things, I mean, they're hideous, kind of. Or not hideous. Hideous isn't the right word, but I mean, they're definitely just bulky and cumbersome, but they definitely
so are my hands.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh man, that's such a good way to put it.
It's a match.
That's hilarious. Match made in heaven. Match made in hoary split pad pro heaven. Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey folks.
And we are back as always to talk about some video games, and I guess we're kind of all over the map today. Randall's got, I feel like we kind of left you out a little bit on last episode with John and I kind of taking the lead with all the stuff we've been playing lately. But yeah, I know you've been firing up the mobile phone these days and getting a little gaming in.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention, but part of the reason why is because I was proud of myself for limping along my old mobile phone for 3+ years. So I finally got a new mobile phone.
Nice.
And it just so happened to basically end up in my hands the same time. John's like, "Wait, what about this Pokemon trading card game Pocket? You see this?" And I did not see this. And now I am seeing
My
this.
apologies.
Yeah, I had no idea until John brought it up too. Yeah.
So it's perfect synergy that way too, right? Because it's now, it's an excuse to use my new, device with its, brighter, more vibrant screen to touch these cards, some of which the illustrations I've seen for decades, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
But it's, it's cool because, I used to play the Pokemon trading card game back when it came out. Even though I was probably a little bit of an older kid to be into it, it's just like I already liked Magic the Gathering, and it was just like an alternate, trading card game that way. And I just loved deck building games even then, and played a little bit in tournaments, and, some of my buddies were into it too, right? So it was just fun to mess around with that way, getting some of the promo cards, going to the Pokemon movie and things of that nature, all the stuff that comes about, the Pokemon Mania, riding that wave. And of course, I gave away all of those cards way back when. Oh, man. Yeah, which
that's actually surprising. Number one, just knowing you and your collectible, nature.
Yes.
But also just, I kind of forgot my second thought there, but just with, being that you played it so much, like I had more like collected them just for collecting's sake. Me and my friends like tried to play a few times and like never really fully learned the rules. And similar boat, like played some Magic the Gathering and had my cousin kind of teach me the ropes on that, so I knew that a little bit better. But I feel like when it got to Pokemon, I more like just kind of collected the cards for the artwork and just loving Pokemon at the time.
Yeah,
same. That's why I was like very interested. Like once you said that you actually played it, is this how the game was always played? Yeah, is this like a new iteration. Like I did not know any of these rules.
I feel like me and my friends just like fake made it up and like this makes sense. Yeah,
I mean, I think we were like probably the youngest out of the three of us, and like we had no business learning rules of a card game. It was just it's like I don't know. We get energy tokens and we put them on, and then we use attacks and
grab as many as you want. Just throw them on there.
Pretty much.
Yeah, just grab the Moncala beads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nice Moncala reference too. People are always surprised when I know about Moncala, Midwest roots.
Great game.
Yeah, no. I had a whole cardboard box of Pokemon cards with my printed out Pokemon Snap stickers from Blockbuster, from the kiosk on top of it, and I've always been the same person. And I gave them away to who was my stepbrother at the time, because I'm like, no, you're into this more than me. Here you go. This is you now. But I knew enough to know that Pokemon card game was going to be big, because it was literally like all I wanted for whatever birthday it was. I'm like, hey, this is coming out. It says it's first edition. I like specifically told my I guess my dad's girlfriend at that point, like, hey, this is what I want. Like, could you please like pre-order it if you're willing to get me something of this? And it didn't happen. And then it immediately went like triple in value, of course, you know, upon release. And it's like, oh, yeah, that first edition Charizard's never going to be mine now. That's all right. Yep. Is what it is. But yeah, Pokemon trading card game is like a simplified, I don't know, is it a simplified Magic? It is in some extents. It's like you have one main character, one main Pokemon in an active slot that you're kind of fighting with, and then up to 3 that can fit onto what's called your bench that are behind it, that could be, you know, hot swapped in for the cost of a, you know, energy cost, retreat cost. Typically the game starts, it's turn based. You can only have up to 20 cards in your deck, which I didn't remember that. There's actually,
that's a pretty small deck. Yeah,
it's very, yes, but you know, considering Magic's typically like 60 or 60 more. Yep. Yeah, you know, like, so I was like, oh wow, I forgot that you know, these decks were that small, and you know, this is what the rule set was. I'd probably remembered maybe half of how to play it until getting this mobile app again. And you know, I think that was a great way to get reacquainted with it. Yeah. Honestly, it plays really well. But yeah, very simple turn-based card game. Draw 1 card at a time. You flip a coin to see who goes first. If you go first, you can't attach an energy, and attaching energy is how you attack. It's how you're able to retreat if your Pokemon's too damaged or you want to bring a different one in. And there's different costs to those attacks and those retreats, or, you know, whatever else you're going to play that way. And then there's also these support cards that can do different effects. Think almost like, I don't know, like instants or sorcery in Magic the Gathering, I guess, would be the closest approximation to that. And then item cards, you know, can typically be used either to heal your Pokemon or to get another Pokemon character card out of your deck faster than what you have in your hand. And this is especially key because Pokemon is based around, you know, the evolution of these, you know, characters over time. You know, you're going from, I don't know, Squirtle to Wartortle.
Correct.
To Blastoise.
Yeah. Been a while, yeah.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And you can only place 1 evolution per turn, you know, so while going first, you might not be able to place an energy to attack unless you have a very specific support card that allows you to place an energy otherwise. Your advantage is you might be placing that Squirtle out there first go, and then, you know, oh, here comes your second turn already, and you have the Wartortle in your hand. Well, you place it right on top. Now it's a Wartortle in your second turn, you know, that sort of thing. And you're gaining HP along the way with the character, so it's not getting knocked out as easily. And, you know, there's a gamesmanship there too, where, you know, even if you don't have enough energy to play something, maybe it's kind of like a scarecrow of sorts while you build up the stuff on your, you know, on your bench, and it's a sacrificial lamb, you know, in the overall scheme of war sort of thing, which is a strategy.
I've never used an X speed once in a actual Pokemon game, but in the card game, I'm like, oh yes. Free retreat cost? Hell yeah.
Yes. Even if it just reduces it by 1, that can make a huge difference in what you're able to do, because, like I said, more often than not, you're only placing 1 energy, and, you know, that's a high cost to burn, say, you know, even 1, but especially 2 or 3 energy to retreat a Pokemon instead of letting it die, because you can only allow for, what do they call it? It's like 3 total points effectively.
Like the X Pokemon, the X cards are worth 2. So if you knock out, say, like a legendary Pokemon or like a special X Pokemon, then like you get 2 points for knocking that one out. Or if yours gets knocked out, then that's 2 against you, and you need 3 points to win. So like it's either knocking out 3 regular Pokemon or 1 X Pokemon and 1 other. So it's a little bit of risk reward there.
Yeah.
Tons. And a lot of people online, 'cause I played this online a lot against other people. And, I made the mistake, like I always do. I should jump in like day 1 or 2 and just get online and fight other people that also don't know what they're doing. I always wait until they get ready. And then, now it's a bunch of...
No, a meta has already emerged.
The floor. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, people have already mastered this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true, because that's what happened. Because now, like, there's this Pikachu EX that's like a totally broken card that everybody uses, and they just make these electric decks that are based around this Pikachu EX, because Pikachu only takes 2 energy cards to have the potential of causing up to 130 damage.
Plus. Yeah, it's bonkers.
And Pikachu has over 100 HP on the front side and doesn't need any evolution, so it's not like you're waiting on that either.
Yeah.
It's just
I never even knew you could evolve your card. I just thought you got whatever card you got, played at any time.
No, so there's layers to it that way.
That's
sometimes
really cool.
It's like, I was just playing matches earlier today because I knew I was going to talk about it, and I because in a revenge, basically, fuck all these like electric and like psychic decks. Like I'm gonna beat on these like 11-year-olds that are playing this way. I will show them.
Oh no, there's a full of my brother-in-law and his brother. There's plenty of 40-somethings.
Okay,
good. The gamut.
Yeah, that doesn't actually surprise me at all. That's actually sounds exactly right to me. But there's so much of that I'm like, all right, I'm making a fighting deck, because most electric is typically weak to fighting. And I can get my Hitmonchan out there, turn 1, baby, and he only takes the 1 energy to do 30 damage. That's good value.
That is.
And only 1 retreat cost too, which is also good value for his high 80 HP. No evolutions there, but it was built around like an Onyx and like Golem, evolution from Geodude sort of thing, and specifically designed around, I just need to be able to like show these Pikachu decks up, and like I still lose like probably half the time against them, but it's better than 100% of the time.
It does have a fair amount of randomness in it.
Yes.
Like, it's got a lot of that where it's, it's the luck of the draw. And
this is why we like roguelikes and this sort of things. It's like, it's always going to be interesting to me for the exact same reasons. Like, we were talking a little bit, John, mentioned again that I was playing the SNK, versus Capcom card fighter stuff, and I just love just the draw of it. Like, this is what I have to make do with. Now my strategy is based around what I started with, and I have to figure it out from there if I want to try to win or like delay long enough to get into a strategy I know could work to defeat whatever I'm up against. And it's just,
or even just getting down to that last move where it's like, if I just draw that one card that I need, even if it's a 5% chance. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it takes is just like, maybe I'll get it this time.
And it happens.
And I was very interested on like those SNK versus Capcom card games. Like, how long are those battles in comparison to like this?
Yeah. And how long is a battle here? Yeah.
A battle here is 3-5 minutes.
Yeah, I'd say
that
comfortably
fast?
sub 10 minutes. Some of them can get a little drawn out, but it's on average probably 5.
I'm mostly thinking about
so nothing like Magic the Gathering in that sense,
because it does have an automatic, like, it'll just play cards for you and do things, and like if you run it like automatically, it'll be over in like 5 minutes. But if you're playing against a human and you're like thinking about
there's like built-in delay.
Like there's obviously going to be more.
But but that's good to know, because like when you're comparing it to like Magic the Gathering, like it's definitely seems like a truncated version of that, at least in this video game version of it or whatever.
Oh, definitely.
Did the actual card game, like physically, did they play out that fast as well, or
reasonably so? Yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
obviously a little bit longer when you're actually like manipulating the cards yourself, of course, but
flipping coins, and the coin ended up on the floor, and all that stuff. Right. But still, under 10. I would say SNK versus Capcom, the battles are a little bit longer on average, probably at least like a 10-minute average per. Although sometimes, again, I got into strategies where, or you catch the right luck, or, you have the right card in your first set of cards in your hand, and it's practically over with before it started, sort of thing, and you can mop up pretty quickly.
Because I think it's such like an easy thing to like when I think about things like Slay the Spire or the SteamWorld Quest, Epic of Gilgamesh.
I forgot about that game. Yeah.
Like, I think it's easy to like make a like longer game, like something that, will take, if you have a bad draw of some cards, or you've got some like garbage turns where you're just kind of like running the wheels, like, you're not going to get anything this time, but you're going to like get it the next, but like
get another draw. Yep.
Making something that's really tight and like concise, I think is just so much more impressive. And like, it's
Agreed.
kind of, I don't understand how you can make it like that.
Agreed. Yeah, it's great game design, and I think like I've hooked on it mainly because of that. Like I know there's, ultimately it's a free to play mobile game, but I'm drawn to it more because I've just really liked building different decks. Even the deck building components in this are really good for like auto build me a deck based around fighting type. And then, it's not going to be like the most strategically optimized deck, but it gives you a really good starting point to then just kind of
tweak it and whatever,
modify from there. And I'm like, oh shoot, that's based on what you have available to you. I'm like, oh, that's amazing time saver. And it's also not, you don't have the real life constraints of, oh, I'm actually using that card in this other deck, so I don't want to make it incomplete, right? So
there is a Magic the Gathering battle arena, isn't there? Is that the name of the
sounds right
virtual
to me,
game?
There's definitely there's definitely like a digital online version of it. I think the people who would like it, obviously with it being Magic, are pretty diehard.
Right. That's something a rabbit hole I've never gone down, and I've kind of kept myself from going down that rabbit hole. But
but like that'd be like the way to go, because like even when I would play Magic, just like I was saying, with not to the extent, because my cousin kind of knew what he was doing, at least I think. Taught me how to play Magic, and like I felt like I kind of knew the rules for most things. Like, okay, I know what trample does, and I know what this does, and whatever. Where Pokemon, we really were just like making it up based on, we just read the card and make up rules. Like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas like Magic, I feel like it would help though to like play the digital version and be like, okay, there's no room for misinterpreting the rules here.
Totally.
We're gonna know what this card means. Exactly. Yeah. So I do like that, especially for learning a game like that. It seems kind of almost ideal.
And I did that, even though I played Magic back when I was started collecting the cards, back probably when I was like 11 or 12 or whatever for Magic. The Xbox 360 era, there was like the Magic 2014 and 2015 XBLA releases that happened. And I got pretty into those for that, because it was the same sort of idea. It was just like a rekindling of like the stuff that was half in my brain stuck in the back cobwebs of like, oh yeah, that's right. It's like Magic the Gathering. And actually I was kind of playing it wrong this whole time in these sort of ways, right?
Yeah.
We were just permissible when we were playing against each other to like, it's fine. You can
as long as we all agree, as long as we both agree that this is what it means, like, nobody's getting an advantage, I guess.
Which is kind of the beauty of playing, board games with home rules or any
house
card
rules.
game.
Yep.
Yeah, like
totally. Yes,
definitely.
So all that to say is, I do think it's worth checking out to really learn how to play Pokemon. Yeah. There are some of those freemium elements in there, but I think they're not too terribly intrusive. You can still get enough booster packs, just not paying money, to start building out some interesting decks for the sake of play. You're probably not going to win too many online matches, especially as you gain experience. But, although I was pretty proud of once I got strategies to fight the meta strategies, I'm up to 26 wins now online. So I'm feeling
nice.
Holy shit,
putting
dude.
some time in.
Okay, no, you're doing real good.
Not so bad, man. This is my sort of niche, though. I love this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, hitting double digits, period, is impressive. Getting online matches. So, yeah, I think you found a good counter strategy to the meta.
Oh, I started out like 10-3, and it was just like I had a really good green deck and like the ability to heal for like 50 at a time, which is really significant with these like Erica cards that I got early on. But then, the meta, I got too high in the experience level, and I think the game started putting me up against other high level decks, and then I just started getting mopped over and over again until I figured something out. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. Though. Yeah, I downloaded it right after John talked about it, but I have not booted it up yet, so I'm excited to now even more so now that you've talked about it some more, I'm excited to fire it up.
Exchange some more friend codes.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, yeah, if you're good to leave it there for now, but I'm sure we'll end up revisiting that at some point. But John and I are just going to talk about some random arcadey, puzzly games that we've been playing. John, I know you've been kind of revisiting some of the stuff that I've been talking about on like either a Save It for the Cast. I might have even mentioned this one on a proper episode. I can't remember, but you've been playing some Swordship.
Yeah.
Which I've been kind of playing this one quite a bit on my Switch as well, but I'll let you kind of take the lead here since I've already kind of mentioned this one a couple times.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because the gameplay description, I don't think, like, it definitely, like, interested me, but I think actually looking at it and seeing it, like, it is a very stylized game in terms of it. Yeah. It's not overly complicated, but, like, it uses a lot of really good, like, cell shading graphics and, like, the way that this was after I picked it up and started playing it, like that was pretty much enough to sell me on it. And, you know, like Kevin telling, like giving him his seal of approval for it. But once I started playing it and actually having like the like reactions to, you know, setting up these like combos of, you know, tricking these literally setting up tricks to get the enemies to attack themselves, and that's how you clear them from the screen. So there's
essentially in most cases don't have any real attack, you know, other than like some minor secondary abilities that you can unlock, but really they're more like they stun the enemies or something like that. Right. You don't really like do damage.
But like the way that like the camera zooms in whenever you have a near miss, like just looks really good. And it kind of puts in some bullet time. So then you have a little bit more time to react to, like, say if you're in the sights of one enemy or like you have an explosion coming. And like it was such an interesting type of arcade roguelike. The way that like I think I enjoy roguelike elements more is when the run itself is more randomized and it's not integral to its progression. Like, I think that with games like 20 Minutes Till Dawn, there is still a lot of, okay, you know, you need to level up your character outside of each run, and the runs are very much tailored to whatever the pickups and upgrades you get during them. Whereas in this one, like fundamentally, you're pretty much just learning and getting better at the core mechanics. And then you get little perks that just make it slightly easier, but don't like alter the gameplay in any like substantial way other than, you know, I think certain ones like being able to dive on a delivery point then opens up, you know, you get a dodge in a little bit more, or you have more flexibility when you deliver cargo that you stole, or I'm trying to think of other ones that are like every time I see that upgrade, I'm like, oh, I have to pick that one up.
The one that I grab every time is like the one where if your ship is above where like a enemy is going to surface from.
Yes.
You'll cancel them out and block them, which is like, well, it's a double-edged sword though. Cause if you're trying, I'm bad enough at this game where I'm mostly trying to just keep enemies out of my way. Mm-hmm. So I'm not thinking like, but I feel like if you're trying to rack up points, you might be thinking, hey, I don't want to make those enemies not surface because I want to kill them and get the points for it. Mm-hmm. So, but for me, I'm just trying to keep the screen as clear as I can because things are getting pretty hectic, pretty dang fast. And like you mentioned, like not only the style, but like the sense of speed is just awesome. Like even, I don't know if it's just like the lines on the water or whatever it is, but like just something about the speed and I think it's because you're moving towards the screen. Like it's kind of like picture like a shoot 'em up in Tate mode, but instead of moving towards the top of the screen, you're moving down. Cool. So it just adds to that sense of speed.
The enemies are kind of like they're still like mostly stationary. So you're not even just really sit there moving. But like there is that sense of speed and motion that like comes with the lines,
just like the streaking
upwards.
Air on like the water or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's like that's a good point. The enemies don't really move at all.
The crates that you do pick up, those do come from the bottom of the screen, so those definitely give you a sense of like, okay, here's something moving at a high speed and you have to get over there to do it. But like other than that, every enemy's moving at a same like similar speed to you, so they're relatively stationary on the screen. But yeah, like the particle effects, the lines on the screen, everything just gives it this sense of motion that feels really satisfying and looks really satisfying. Because yeah, like I remember when it like the first like time I saw like the zoom in, or when you hit a game over and then it just like the game continues like in underneath the like giant hard like sans serif font on the thing. Like it's everything just looks really good, even though like when you look at the component parts to it, like it'll zoom in on an enemy in those bullet times, or it'll zoom in on the particle effects, and it's like just a triangle or just like a very flat geometric shape. And I was like, this game looks so good with so little like done. It's like zero fat on everything. It's so impressive on that like thing. And the thing that I think I caught like the whole game caught me up in it is that it really was just me being like, I just want to get better at this game. Like I don't necessarily.
That's how I feel too.
I'm less like successful at it than other like roguelike games. I've still only unlocked normal mode. I've not beaten it on normal, but like
I've even been tempted to dumb it down to beginner mode or whatever the like easy mode is, because I'm struggling here, man.
Yeah, and I like, but I was like, I want to unlock the stuff. Like I want to keep playing this game. I want to keep like actually beating it on its own terms, which is not something that I typically do with an arcade like shoot 'em up, which this isn't a shoot 'em up ish.
It's like a dodge 'em up.
Yeah,
you know? That's sweet.
Yeah. I really, really like that game a lot. It's been a couple days or a week or so since I last booted it up, but it was definitely for a good 2-3 weeks was like my go-to game on Switch. The only thing is like the loading times. I think I mentioned this on the Save It for the Cast, at least on Switch, are like it takes forever. Only when you first boot up the game. Once it like you're going, fire up another run, it's no problem. But the loading time when you first boot up the game is like insane.
I had remembered that you said that, but that was only after I had played it several times. I was like, oh, that's not an issue on Steam Deck at all.
Yeah, I assumed it was just a Switch thing, because it's like I would like you know how time is when you're just sitting there waiting. It might not feel as long as it is, but like it truly feels like it's like a minute to a minute and a half from when you select the game and when the game actually starts. It's like, okay, let me fire up this game. Let me go grab a beer, pour it, grab a snack, and then I'll sit back down and be ready to play. But then it's no like performance issues throughout playing the game. None at all while playing on Switch. So
I was going to say that the only thing that like friction that I rub up against is actually part of a thing that I like about the game, which is how much you have to balance the like gaining points versus gaining extra lives. So after you clear a level, you can either donate the crates for points or keep them for extra lives and perks. And like the game is kind of built around you having a large amount of lives because it's a one-hit death for everything. And there are so many times where in the first, like, very first line, I have, like, a dumb death. And I was like, well, this whole run's kind of
this isn't even worth it.
And it's like, there's not, like, there's great quick restart from that. Like, you have to get all of your lives emptied out. So, like, once you get, like, pretty late in a run and you have only 2 lives left, you're like, I could keep going.
What's the point?
Or I could just, like... And like then you have to either, you know, hit reset like in the pause menu or like give up and then do that. I wish that there was just like a quick restart. Like that would be so like that's my only gripe with it.
Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean. But yeah, nonetheless, I'm glad that you scooped this one up and glad that you're enjoying it as well, because I'm definitely a big fan. And actually, it's a perfect transition into the game that I want, at least one of the 2 games that I wanted to talk about here. This game called Redline Crooks. And this game I probably would have been none the wiser to if the developer didn't send it our way on Steam. And I just had like been scrolling through. I was like, oh, this looks pretty fun, and let me check it out. And so I fired it up on I was going to say on a stream, but I actually think I was just recording a video. But it's like a top-down racing combat game, also with a roguelike progression in the sense that like, you know, the whatever biome or level or whatever that's, you know, spawning and track is like going to procedurally generate. But essentially you have like It's very focused on the combat. You get a bunch of different characters you can unlock. You start out with just 2 different ones, and you have like your basic, like basically you can just ride up like next to, and you can pick between 2 different control schemes. You can either just go with like tank controls where like left and right are always going to steer you left and right, whether you're, driving, straight down towards the screen. And one thing that's cool is like every stage kind of switches it up a little bit. Like sometimes you're kind of driving more up and the stage or the track will kind of like swerve and turn a bunch, but like
super off-road, those like arcade games like that where it's relative to your car.
It's like exactly. Yeah. And you can select the other option that just lets you, just like in Lonely Mountains Downhill, like you can select the one of 2 options. You can do like the almost like 360 controls where it's just going to steer you wherever you're aiming on the joystick. But I like those tank controls. Even, I don't know, it just feels very satifying.
For stuff like this, for sure.
Exactly. Yep. Just feels like extra arcadey and extra retro to me or something. Yep. In a good way. And then you basically have like your regular gas, and then if you ride up next to any enemies, you can like slam into them with like I forget what the button's called, but whatever. You can slam into them. It'll show like a little arrow that shows that you're like lined up, and you can just smash into them and blow them up. And then you have your, like every character has their own regular or their special attack on top of the regular attack. So like, for example, the very first character you get does like kind of like almost like a spin attack. And like the game almost starts to feel like almost like a little bit pinball-y, because you'll just smash another car. It'll ricochet off into another car, and like you can almost get like little combos going. And you can really keep your ranking like by keeping a combo going. Not necessarily, you don't have to keep cars chaining into one another, but by just keeping like actively smashing cars, like you're keeping like, okay, I'm going up from like a B to an A to an S, and it even went up to an R after the S. So I was like, man, how what does that even mean? And what does it go to after this? I was like, maybe for Redline Crooks, like I don't know what the R stands for, but nonetheless, I was so pumped. I was like, I'm going ham right now. But then like the second character, which is also unlocked right from the get-go, you play as like a forklift. So instead of doing that spin attack that almost like ricochets and pinballs characters off of each other even more than your slam attack, you can actually like pick up the cars, like drive up in front of them, or drive up behind them, I should say, pick them up and then throw them at the other cars and then get those to like pinball off one another or whatever. And then they'll, if you smash into an ambulance, that'll give you health. There'll be cop cars. And then one thing that kind of like helps balance the game out, like sometimes you'll be racing ahead and you'll get like kind of way ahead of the enemies, or even like a mini boss or something like that. So you can like honk your horn to taunt the enemies, and that brings any enemy that's behind you, it like forces them to use their turbo so that they'll catch up to you and kind of like get all caught up. And then you also have a turbo, which also allows you, like, your racetrack is like carved out of like, walls, I guess, like, so you can smash into the walls. But if you use your boost, you can just boost right through the walls. But your boost uses your health at the same time. But again, there's like these ambulances all over the place. So you can just smash into them and like refill your health pretty quickly. And then I played, just a handful of runs on this video. Or a few more than a handful, but I started like unlocking even more of the characters. There's like, I think almost like a dozen characters, maybe 10. But they all, like, I've played as 4 or 5 of them now, and they all seem to play pretty differently. Like similarly overall, but like their special move is like different enough to where it's like, okay, I'm definitely going to find a couple that I really like. And I just really like the overall getting different perks and upgrades, kind of like some that are based on your character's special and some that are just, overall perks and upgrades based on speed or health or whatever. You can kind of tune up your car in between stages, and just like the boss battles are a lot of fun. It's just like a really well made game, and it's got like almost like a pseudo 3D style. It's pixel art best I can tell, but it's got that like sprite stacking kind of 3D look, and just the sense of speed. It's not quite as speedy as Swordship, but nonetheless, it definitely like nails that. And I really love the procedural generation. Again, like you said, John, it's like, I really like when the roguelike leans more into like, it's essentially just an arcade game that happens to not be the same levels every time, and then a few like buffs that you can lean into to like, be like, okay, I'm going to like play a little more this way this run because this is what I happen to have at this time. So
it looks sweet.
Yeah, it's really fun. I'm really glad they sent it our way, and I'm like, man, I hope this comes out on Switch because I just know I'll play it more on there,
Yeah.
But then another game I wanted to give a quick shout out to that I also recorded a video for, that's also like a very arcadey game, It's called Boom Buster, with an exclamation point at the end of boom and all caps on that. And I'm really pumped about this game because it's not out yet. I just played the demo for it. And it succeeded in like hitting their Kickstarter goal. And the reason I'm so pumped about that, it's from Tall Glass Games. And they had another Kickstarter that I played the demo for called Alien Xenocide. And I might have even talked about that on the podcast, whether a regular episode or save it for the cast. But it was another like kind of single screen arcade platformer that did not hit the Kickstarter goal. And I was super bummed. I was like, this game is just oozing with polish, like had like the regular stages. And then it was kind of like a run and gun single screen platformer kind of thing with some puzzle elements. But then like the boss battles in between the stages, at least in the demo, it might have even just been like a mid boss or something, but you're like skateboarding and you had to do all this platforming. So it like switched from like a single screen kind of game to like a full blown, like kind of boss battle platformer, like auto scroller kind of. It was just really, really cool. I couldn't believe it didn't hit the Kickstarter. So I happened to see that this Boom Buster game was from them. And I was like, oh, they hit their Kickstarter on this. And it's like similar in gameplay, but definitely a totally, fresh take on that single screen arcade platformer type of game. But like the number one, the art style right off the bat just immediately caught my eye. It's like same thing, and same thing with Alien Xenocide, but this one's got a totally different, almost like it's still pixel art, I think, but it almost looks like hand drawn, like crayon comic booky style. I don't know like exactly how to put it, but
pixel art.
Yeah, and it's just oozing with personality. Almost has like a little bit of like a Dreamcast energy to like the music and like the. Or like Grapple Dog, like the way it has like that, like, I don't know, the music where you can hear like, or Jet Set Radio, like with like the DJ scratching in the background. It just kind of reminds me of like that kind of
catching a little alien hominid art style wise too.
Yeah. Big time. Actually, that's another great touchstone. But essentially you're like, it's a, side scrolling platformer. You can just run. You can also dash. You can do a double jump. The second jump is just kind of like almost like a little extra jump, and then you can also duck down and do like a backflip that helps you jump extra high. I kind of think of like the Mario backflip sort of, but you don't have to like, at first I was thinking it was almost like in Super Mario 2 where you have to like hold down and like charge your jump to do that extra high jump, but it's like no, as soon as you press down and duck and then jump, you do like a backflip, and it does like actually like flip you, like you don't jump straight up, you actually do jump like backwards a little bit. So you do have to like kind of line yourself up for certain positioning to like make sure you're like, okay, I got to turn around here, duck, and then make sure I jump to land on this little lip of this platform. And then otherwise you have like this enemy, or I'm assuming it's like your enemy on the side of the screen that's like not actually in the gameplay area, but they're up in like the top right corner on like a TV screen, and they're just like digging bombs out of their bag, and in their like colored bombs. So it's almost like a match 3 puzzler at the same time. And they're throwing like at the start, they're just either orange or turquoise. And then I get played some later stages that throw in some different colors, like a purple. I think there was 3 or maybe even 4 colors on the last stage that I played. And I actually skipped a couple stages on the demo, but they had like 7 stages. One of them was a mid boss or a mini boss at the end, which I did play that. But each stage has like 3 acts to it as well. But essentially, like those bombs are on a timer, and they're just like digging them out and throwing them at the screen. And like at the very beginning of the game, you're only able to really grab like one at a time, and then you just got to drop them in like the tubes at the bottom of the screen that match the color that the bomb that you have in your hand is. But then once, for example, like once it gets later into the stage or later stages in the game, like you're able to pick up, once you have a turquoise bomb in your hand, you can keep picking up more turquoise bombs. But again, you're always got to keep watching, like you can't let any of them blow up, because if a bomb blows up, you take damage. If you get hit by an enemy, you take damage. You have 3 hit points. But even if you don't touch that bomb and you just leave it there and just don't get to it in time, you're going to take damage. So you really got to be watching, like, okay, but you want to be building your combos as well, because you can build up your combo. It lets you do some kind of special move that I didn't really use all that much, but I think it just makes you like invincible and extra powerful for a minute. But essentially you're just able to, I think, carry up to 4 bombs at a time, and you're just trying to juggle with like, okay, should I wait for them to throw the next one, because it might be another, turquoise one, so I can get a 3 combo, or should I just, drop them now because that orange one's about to blow, and I got to go pick that one up and drop it off before it does. But it gets really tricky, like right off the bat. Like the challenge level is just like right on the money. You also have like a slide attack or a dash. You can do it midair or like kind of slide like Mega Man style, like low, like under a, like a tight corridor or tight gap. But just like the movement, the fluidity, the energy, the personality, the music, like I seriously like when I finished I keep saying stream, but like it was just a video I recorded. But I was like, I think this is the best demo I've ever played in my life. Just like, wow. It's so polished. It's so good. It's so fun. It's so like, even if that was just the game, I was like, this would be amazing. And then like the mini boss stage was almost like threw in some like almost bullet hell elements. You had to keep like dodging these fireball projectiles that were coming in from all angles of the screen while you were picking up the bombs and dodging projectiles and like hitting switches that were, triggering and untriggering walls so you could get to one side of the screen or the other. Like, but you had to like, again, keep juggling. Like, do I want to wait and get that combo or no, I got to get that bomb now, but I got to go back and hit that switch. Like I've never been so engaged in just playing a demo where I could just play that game endlessly. It's so fun. And I didn't even play a couple of the stages. So
damn.
We'll say I already downloaded the demo while you were talking about it because I'd watched the preview clip on Steam and I'm like, yeah,
heck yeah.
That's
and for what it's worth, if the demo's still up for Alien Xenocide, I definitely recommend checking that out too. They made a previous game in that series. It's like Alien. I can't think of the name of it, but there's another game like that was supposed to be the sequel of, but nonetheless, I'm just super pumped that I was kind of thinking like, man, I wonder what these guys are going to do now that their Kickstarter failed and like they had another one that was successful. And I just hope it leads to more success for them because this game, at least the demo, is just fantastic. I cannot wait to play and get this game when it comes out. But John, why don't you take us home with a little puzzle action here?
Yeah, so I've been playing a couple different puzzle games, bouncing between them a little bit. More in between, after I've done a few Swordship runs and I'm like, all right, I need to do something. I need to engage my brain differently.
Palate cleanser or something, yeah.
Yeah, and I've been playing both Railbound by Afterburn and Mosa Lina by Stuffed Wombat, Silkersoft, Luca, and Rollin' Barrel. I didn't realize it was like so many different devs on Mosa Lina, which is fascinating.
Well, I think too that I was just reading like they just released a recent update for Mosa Lina, and I think it was like I don't know who all, but I think it was like pretty much a Stuffed Wombat thing, but they just recently like passed off any further development on the game to someone else.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And it's what I'm assuming one of the people on that list there. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but they just said like, I feel like I've done everything I can do with this game, and like I feel like there's more there potentially, but like I'm just leaving it here for now.
Yeah, and like Mosa Lina is such an interesting, I think, counterpoint to Afterburn games, which like they are their own type of puzzle game in a way where like I've been having difficulty trying to like actually nail down what it is that Afterburn does with their games. Like I think that Railbound is probably the most hard-coded solution game. I think it's pretty difficult to stumble into a correct solution.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. Like because there are other games, Golf Peaks and Invento. But Golf Peaks for sure. It's like you have to do it right. There's no like, there's 3 different ways to solve this, or I did it this way and I accidentally figured it out. Or
but it's like Golf Peaks in particular gives you it's like a card-based puzzler that like gives you cards that are extraneous. And it gives you cards that, like, if you use them, you'll get the wrong answer. So you kind of have to puzzle out what the correct thing is using the cards that you're given. And I think Invento is a little bit more locked into, okay, you have to figure out what the, like, actual solution is to this.
Do it in the right order. And,
right. Whereas, like, I think Railbound is the most, okay, there is a set solution, and you just have to build the train lines to hit all the switches, gather all the like people, and like get the trains in the correct order. And the other thing that I think is interesting about Afterburn puzzle games in particular, is just how much the difficulty like spikes in them. Like,
it's so true.
They go from being, oh, this is such like a fun little like,
look at this cute little puzzle game. Yeah,
and then immediately it gets to like, I've been stuck on this one level for a day. Like I just can't figure it out.
Railbound is hard as hell.
Like it is wild how much like there's such like a variety of difficulty in like just the base level game, like the levels of Railbound.
Yeah, it's
like,
not
they
even
have
like this
extra levels, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna 100% this. I'm gonna do all the extra levels, and I did that for the first two. And then
here.
Then I was stuck on the fourth world for like multiple days just because
you made it way further than me. I'm only on the second world, and I started getting stumped pretty fast.
It keeps adding new puzzle things to it that I think are incredible. And like I got to the fifth one, and it introduced passengers, but the passengers like have a time delay on them, kind of. So like it takes in the amount of time that it takes, you know, a train to go one track. That's how long your train will be paused. So then you need to actually remember, okay, if they're following behind one after each other, they'll crash into each other. Like, it's a very well
at that point,
designed puzzle, but like in a way that's not as satisfying as I think other puzzle games. Like when I think about Baba Is You, and how Baba Is You is more of like you struggling to just understand what the mechanics are.
Yes.
Yeah, like there's none of that in this game. Yeah.
That is where the puzzle element is in Baba Is You versus Railbound is like put the tracks in the right order in the right place and that's
solve the puzzle that we made for you. Yeah.
Right. And then compare that to Mosa Lina, which is random puzzles. Like it's randomizing so much of everything in a physics platformer puzzle in a way that I think teases my brain in a way that other puzzle games just do not. And like I haven't beaten the first batch of levels yet in Mosa Lina. I got to the like after you beat the like first batch, then there's a like final level that
almost
is
like a boss stage.
Yeah, that's longer, and I just haven't been able to figure that out. Like
I did beat that one time, but it honestly took me. I kept like beating my head against the wall with that game until I talked to our pal Turd Boomerang in the Discord.
Yeah,
and he like kind of explained the structure of like, okay, there's like the way the game works is like I think there's like at least originally before this like new patch came out, there's 30 different items in the game, and then every run it picks like either 8 or 10 or some set number. I think it's 10.
Yeah.
Out of those 30 items, 10 of those items, and then during your run on any given stage, any of those 3 out of those 10 items will appear as like items you can use on that stage. And then it just kind of randomly generates these stages. I think the stages are designed.
Yes.
And then it just randomly orders them. And then it just randomly keeps throwing them at you until you beat all 10 of them. Mm-hmm. Like seemingly limitless. Like you can't get a game over or anything, I don't think.
Like that's I think that's the part of it that I like most about it is that there is like zero punishment for failure. So it is just you like poking and prodding.
Encourages you to experiment a little bit. Yeah.
But like in an actual creative way. Whereas like Baba Is You is still that kind of creativity, but it's the creativity and problem solving or like rule, like understanding what a rule could be in a game.
Yeah.
Whereas this like takes that in a more abstract.
Yeah, that's the exact word I was going to use.
Like where when you have to like think about it, it's like, okay, well, this ability now moves the like platform in front of me up a little bit, or it just gets rid of its gravity entirely and it makes it float up. But if I jump on it
disappears.
It sinks. Like it just forces you to like try a lot of stuff. And like, because of the way that it doesn't explain it to you, it like kind of just gives you the name of the ability or the name of the object. And you kind of have to, it forces you to poke and prod.
Just use it and see what happens.
Yeah. And like, it's great, but it is all like, because it is so devoid of a set like solution for every problem. It becomes like this weird testing ground of like a sandbox immersive sim, and it's really fascinating in a way that like I can't think of another game that does a similar thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely doing its own thing. It's got a cool art style. It's like almost like a little bit broken at times. Like you're playing it and you're like, I feel like there's no way that I can beat this level with the items I have. Like I'm sure
and that might be the case.
But I feel like that's just. But again, because there's no punishment, it does, like you said, it just encourages you to be like, okay, well, I don't see any way I can do this, but I have these 3 items, so why don't I just fucking try this and see if it works? You know, it encourages you to just like get a little more playful with it. Where like I tend to, in those types of games where I'm trying to solve the puzzle, I'm trying to like do it the right way. This game, like there is no right way, so just try stuff.
Yeah, that sounds so fun.
And it is really leaning into the idea of like, how can you break this? Like, how, with the tools you are given, how can you just smash this level to pieces?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, is there any advantage to doing it faster, like completing a level faster or anything like that? Or is just figure it out, take your time if you need to.
And you don't even need to collect necessarily all the apples or whatever, the fruit. Like you can also, what will also count as collecting them is knocking them off screen. So
if you hit them with like that anti-gravity thing and they just go flying,
they float away. They're gone and it's like, all right, you got it.
But even that, it doesn't even really explain that to you. You just like, they're just like, you spawn in these single screen levels and there's just some random fruit floating around and you just like, okay, I just have to touch these and they turn dark. And then, once I touch both of them, I beat the level. Like, you're like, what the hell is this game?
Yeah.
It's definitely just like, like pushing the boundaries of like what is a game kind of.
And what is a puzzler in particular? Like,
and what is a
solution to a game? When is a level complete?
Yeah.
Yeah. But heck yeah, I'm glad you. And that game's only like $3 or $4 too. That's why I scooped it up. I was like, man, this is a steal. So
yeah, it's super great.
Yeah. But heck yeah, tons of good gaming. And yeah, as always, I think if you guys are good there, we can leave it there for this week. And yeah, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com and pretty much everywhere else on the internet. And otherwise, until next week, we'll catch you then and take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Man, I fumbled through that outro, but
it's fine.
Works.
All right, I'm stopping this recording because my fan has been going overtime this episode.
Good call.